in. We locked in. Shout out to everybody, man. Please share this video. Please share this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Shout out to all of my new subscribers. Please go follow me on Instagram. I need to get my Instagram numbers back up. The podcast was sold on Instagram. And follow me on Spotify. Please follow me on Spotify. The podcast was sold. I got to get my numbers up on podcast was sold. That guy, Wayne 704. That guy 1000. Maxillatron. All right, so look. We loving. See what it is, the city of dreams. All right, so look. Let's get right to it. There is no court tomorrow. There is no court tomorrow. The judge saw jurors falling asleep, and he's giving the jurors Friday off. There's no court tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, nor Monday, because Monday is a holiday. Court will resume next Tuesday. Thank everybody for the thumbs up. Give this video a thumbs up. $100 grand. King Eric, I'm better than you, man. Hey, Schematic, check me out on Spotify. All right, so look. Earlier today, Puffy's assistant, his name is George Kaplan. I'm standing right over the subway. Y'all hear the subway train? You hear the subway train? 100 grand, I'm right here. Check me out. Yeah, what up? SC. So today, George Kaplan took the stand. He's 34 years old. When he started working for Puff, he was 23 years old. He's a white dude, white kid. White kid. Okay? He got his BS degree from the College of Charleston. First, he was an executive assistant to this dude that worked at Nickelodeon. Puffy hired the executive away from Nickelodeon to come and work for Puffy at Combs Enterprises, and George Kaplan was the executive assistant of the dude that Puffy hired away from Nickelodeon. So the executive that Puffy hired brought his executive assistant with him to work for Combs Enterprises. This is around 2013 to 2015. Combs Enterprises consists of the liquor business, music business, TV, clothing, and lifestyle. Fierce Soul, what up? John Pete. Puffy had a lot of interaction with the new executive, and in having that interaction with the new executive, he also got to be around this particular assistant to that executive and took a liking to him. This is the white kid. This is the young white kid who's 23 years old at the time. The offices was at 1710 Broadway, New York City. Puffy liked his work so much, liked his work ethic, that Puffy hired him away from the other dude and made him his assistant. Jose, thank you for the super chat.
You know how many times I've been around here and I don't pay attention about the little details. It wasn't like that, sir.
So George Kaplan began to work directly for Puff. Puff liked his work ethic, Puff liked his attitude, his professionalism, and hired him to come and work directly for him. George Kaplan mentioned that Puffy made it his business to make sure that he had diversity in his businesses. He didn't care what nationality you were, if you were from another country, if you were from Asia, Europe, Africa, America. If you had a high work ethic and a strong aptitude to work, he was going to bring you to work for him. He only wanted the best. George Kaplan, his job was to carry bags for Puff, his clothes, his computers. He also was required to set up hotel rooms for Puff. He would book hotel rooms for Puff, show up a day early, and prepare Puffy's hotel room so that it was as close to Puffy's house as it could possibly be. His work hours was 80 to 100 hours a week. It was no problem for him to start his day at 9:30 in the morning and finish at 6 o'clock in the morning. And he had 4 other assistants that worked along with him. His salary was $125,000 a year, and we're going back to 2014. George Kaplan testified Puffy would threaten his job on a monthly basis by telling him that, anytime George made a mistake about anything, Puffy would threaten to fire him. Puffy only wanted the best to be around. The first assignment Puffy gave him was to go to the store and get him a gallon of BPA water from Whole Foods. George said he went to the store to look for the gallon of water. He couldn't find it, so he figured, let me get him 2 half gallons of water and take it back. Puffy was pissed off because Puffy told him, I ain't tell you to bring me back 2 half gallons of water. I told you to bring me back a gallon of water. Now, they asked him what were some of the hotels that Puffy would stay in around the country. When he was in Los Angeles, he would stay at the Intercontinental, Mr. C, and the Bel Air Hotel. When he was in Miami, he would stay at the SOS. And when he stayed at a hotel in New York, he would stay at Trump International. He would always use the name Frank Black to check in to hotels. They asked him, why did he use Frank Black? He says, because Biggie's name was Frank White, which was the king of New York, so he used Frank Black. It is also a policy at all of Puffy's businesses that on Biggie's birthday, everybody gets a paid holiday off. They do not work on Biggie's birthday. His job was to clean up the hotel room after Puffy left and the lawyers asked him, why did you clean up the hotel rooms? He says, because I wanted to make sure nothing was left around so that hotel staff couldn't come in and take pictures and then try to sell them online and jeopardize Mr. Combs' reputation. He would also carry Puffy's medicine bag, which was full of Advil, ketamine, Tylenol, Wellbutrin, and he also had ecstasy. I want to make sure I got that down.
I don't want to interrupt.
What's
you.
up, brother? What's going on? Yeah, I see you on Tuesday, man. There's no
Yeah, see you Tuesday.
All right,
Have a
all
good
right.
one.
In 2015, hold on, let me make sure I got this right. In 2015, they were on Puffy's private jet, and one of security gave George $50,000 in cash to hold and to give to security when the plane landed. He got subpoenaed to come and testify, and he was given immunity from self-incrimination. But what he said under cross-examination was that the government made him come. The government subpoenaed him to come, and they granted him immunity from self-incrimination. But Puffy's attorney, and I think it was it Mark? Right, Mark Agnifilo, under cross-examination, asked him, told him, said, "You didn't want to come here today, did you?" He said, "No." He said, "You were forced to come here today by the government, right?" He said, "Yes." He said, "If it was your choice, you wouldn't be here today." George Kaplan says, 100% I wouldn't be here. The government forced my hand. Mark Agnifilo says, "You didn't approach the government and tell the government that you had some information that you could incriminate Puff." He said, "No, I did not approach the government." He said, "The government approached me." So this kid, he loved Puff. This white kid loved Puffy. He looked up to Puffy. He said that working for Puffy was a dream come true, and that his friends used to tell him that he had on the job, it was going to Harvard, getting paid to go to Harvard, working for Puff. He said he learned so much from Puffy in terms of business that he uses it in his life now. You understand? Puffy had a tremendous impact on this kid. He said that Puffy had 3 women in his life that he knew of. Kim Porter, who was a very important figure in Puffy's life, and he had a girlfriend named Cassie, and he had a girlfriend named Gina. The government made him talk about an incident where they were all on the private jet, and when you walked into Puffy's private jet, you had 2 chairs here, and you had 2 chairs there. Then when you walked back, it was like a picnic table type chair, a picnic table, and then a couch over here, and then, appreciate you, bro. And then there was a partition, and Puffy had a bedroom in the back of his plane, and he heard Cassie and Puffy getting into an argument back in the back. He heard a glass break, you understand? And he looked back and could see through the partition, and he saw Puffy standing over Cassie, and Cassie's legs like up in the air, trying to keep Puffy away from her. Then he said nobody did nothing. Nobody on the plane. The security on the plane, he didn't do nothing. Other assistants, nobody did nothing. Puffy came out, sat down, and while Puffy was back there, they were arguing. Cassie yelled out, "Is anybody seeing this?" Another time he recalled, they were at Puffy's house in LA. Puffy called him from the intercom. He went upstairs. Cassie was upset and crying. She had bruises on her eye and her forehead. Puffy sent him to CVS to get some witch hazel and some ointment to reduce the swelling. And he said after that, he decided to leave Bad Boy. There was another time in Miami, Puffy's other girlfriend Gina was by the crib, and Puffy got mad and was throwing these artificial decorative apples, green apples, at Gina. And Gina was huddled up in the corner. After he saw that, he gave 3 months resignation. He was going to leave the company because he did not want to be around that. Cross-examination. Puffy taught me a lot about work ethic. I was excited to work for Puff. Puffy was inspirational and he was motivational, and he had this kind of energy about him that anybody who came around him would be infected with this energy. He said that he was there at the Revolt TV launch and that diversity was a big thing for Puff. Puffy had another company called Blue Flame, which was the marketing company for Ciroc. Puffy had Tony Abrahams, who was the CFO of Combs Global. Kenny Burns was the CEO of Revolt. Keith Clinkscales was the CEO of Revolt. James Cruz was Puffy's manager, and Neil Dominique was Puffy's assistant. He said that Puffy pushed him work-wise to limits I had never been made, that I had never been to before. He made me a man, and my friends told me that this was Harvard Business School on-the-job training, and I was blowing it. He said that Combs Global had a Fortune 500 spirit, that there was nothing but professionalism in Puffy's companies, and that he had a corporate credit card. He did not see Cassie with any injuries on the plane, nor later the same day. So the incident that he heard on the plane when the glass was broke, he didn't see no injuries on Cassie. He also said he can't remember any of the apples that he threw at Gina, hitting Gina, and Gina having any injuries. He talked about Puffy's relationship with Kim Porter. This is his words exactly. Puffy had an extra level and an extra gauge of patience for Kim Porter that he didn't have for Cassie or Gina or his other girlfriends. He had extra respect for Kim Porter. Kim Porter made him happy, more so than Cassie or Gina. He said he also set up hotel rooms for him and Kim Porter, and Baby Oil would be present. He said that when Puffy was at the hotels, he looked at it as that was Puffy's personal business, his personal time, and it wasn't work time. When Kim Porter passed, he sent Puffy a picture. He invited Puffy to his wedding. Puffy never responded. He said Puffy had 2 security teams, the old security, and then Puffy eventually hired a professional security team who were armed, licensed to carry firearms, but he never saw guns on his old security team. And that was his testimony. But I knew this kid, when I saw this kid get on the stand, I could just look at it and hear him, and he on the stand and Puffy sitting right there. I could just see in his body language, he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to do that to Puff. He loved Puff. He admired Puff. He was inspired by Puff. He said Puff gave him opportunities. It was once in a lifetime that he never dreamed that he would work for Puff. And to get on the stand and the government force him to say the things he was saying, and Puffy sitting right there, you could see it. But even in his testimony, every time the government wanted him to say something damaging about Puff, they would have to pull it out of him, but he would always follow up with something positive about Puff. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to do that. He did not want to do that to Puff. And Mark Agnifilo asked him, he said, man, if you had your chance, you wouldn't have came here. He said, man, I would have never came here. He said, you don't want to testify against Puff. He said, I don't. And I think the problem was, you know, with him handling the drugs for Puff, you know, that's how the government kind of squeezed them into having to come do it. But the kid, he was 23, and they kept asking him, like, the government kept asking him, like, why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you tell somebody? He said, man, I'm 23 years old, and I want to move up in the entertainment industry, and I'm not gonna call the police on Puff or rat on Puff, you understand, and ruin my chances of moving up in the music business or the entertainment industry. And he said that was his personal life. I wasn't hired to regulate Puffy's personal life. I was there for his business life. So that was it. Thank everybody for coming. There is no court tomorrow. I probably will still put up some content. I'm gonna pull down Cassie's civil complaint, and I'm gonna pull down Dawn Richards' civil complaint. And let me know in the comment section if you want me to interview some of the people that I'm seeing in the courtroom and get their take on what they think about this Puffy situation. Thank everybody for coming. Sean G. Peace.
Hey, man.